Grief isn't just about death. It's about the plans that fell apart, the paths we didn't take, and the lives we imagined but never got to live. It's the identity you had to release, the quiet ache of unexpected change, and the invisible weight of losses no one prepared you for. The loss of innocence, the pain of divorce, the fading of youth, the dream that never came true, the job you thought would be yours. These are all unspoken griefs that shape us, often silently. In this episode of the Robert Jean Experience, your host, Robert Jean, a neuroplastician, drug rehab consultant, behavioral engineer, and creator of eutaptics and FasterEFT, shares powerful insights into how the brain captures grief and loss, and why some people stay stuck in it for years, and how eutaptics and FasterEFT offers a direct path to real lasting change. I'm Crystal Dirksen, co-host of this podcast, and together we're here to help you understand and transform the patterns that have been keeping you stuck. And remember to subscribe to this podcast and receive more insights as Robert shares his wisdom and tools to change your life.
Very good. Grief and loss. Loss. A lot of people do think it's only the death of something or the ending of that person's life, or pet or animal. But the truth is, throughout our life, we experience many losses. When I say losses, it's the ending of something no longer happening. It could be the end of a relationship. It could be the move from one home to another, and you lost all your friends. And the new school, they didn't like you as well. So there's a lot of elements about loss that most people may not even realize its impact on your life. And the weird thing is, I see people who, like, for example, newly married or new job, and they move from one city to another city, to one state to another state. And then when they get there, it's not happy. They end up having sinus problems or health issues. It's because a major shift, change, loss of an old life. And then, of course, it's the start of a new life, but it's not started out so well, and it could compound over the years. So lots of losses in many ways.
Yeah, that's right. And this is a topic that touches every single human on planet Earth, all 8 billion people and more, if there's more than that.
Mhm.
But this topic, it touches all people and in several points of their life. And so I want to kind of start at the foundation of what is grief and loss, because it's not necessarily just a feeling. So what, in your perspective, what is grief and loss, and what
Yeah.
are we doing inside of ourselves when we are
Mhm.
grieving?
Yeah. Well, okay. So loss and grief. So first of all, loss starts an ending, an abrupt ending, or even sometimes it could be even a willful ending. And the after effect of that decision impacts our life. And we may not even know at the time how it will impact us or if it would, but it does. Because a loss is some unwanted event that occurs, or sometimes wanted, and it shifts and changes your world. And then the grief part comes is the rehearsal and the regret and the pain and the sadness because of that event. And so what's happening inside of the mind of the individual, there's many paths to this and many ways, but the most important thing is it's like, even now, like I'm 64. A lot of things I can't do anymore. When I was out of high school, I could sit with my legs crossed and come into a complete handstand. I could do push-ups, 1,000 of them at a time. Ran 15 miles nonstop. I have fun running to the refrigerators in the bathroom now. but what we could do is we look at this, we go, but I used to, you know, I
Hmm.
used to. I was younger then. I was, life was good then. And then we look at our life now, we have a tendency to grieve it. And so many different, there's so many areas in our life. When we talk about children, first of all, a lot of this stuff, our grieving expertise is oftentimes developed from early childhood. And that is because, how our parents treated us, how moves and changes and events occurred, the loss of innocence. We talk about a child or a teenager, even, in the 20s, something happened that should have never happened. And then the fear that could happen again, the stories are broad and
Right.
wide.
Hmm.
And then from that point forward, the world had shifted, and now you're living a life of always being afraid. So the loss
Right.
of innocence, it's like I didn't know people did these things. So there's a lot of different things. And so whether
Right.
it's witnessing of a death or even caring for someone who's slowly dying, again, haven't you if you hadn't seen that, you wouldn't have this angle of thinking, you know. Little girl, just a little girl, fall off the swing set, knocked her front tooth out, lost her teeth,
Right.
not permanent
Yes.
ones, her baby ones. And from that point forward, she thought she was ugly and no one would ever love her. That's a loss and a
Right.
trauma.
Hmm. Yeah. So from your perspective, it's not, so grief is not necessarily the event that took place. So loss of
It's,
a job. It's
yeah,
not
so
that you lost a job. Go ahead.
it's how you translate it.
Yes, that's so interesting because one person can translate, I lost the job, and they can look at it in a positive way and say, yay,
I'm
because
coming,
that
I'm ready to go. And the
that
other
job
maybe,
wasn't meant for me.
yeah, or they'll be depressed because see, a lot of times a job loss may not necessarily be because of the job you lost, but it's because of the friendship. It's the environment. It's the culture. That's a big loss. I mean, you think about it. Here it is, a client, for example. She lived a long life. She retired after 50 years, willfully and wantingly. Then all of a sudden, there's a major loss in her life, a major grieving. And she thought life was going to be good, but she lost her friends. She lost her purpose for living. She lost her brain. Actually, she started losing memory because when you work, you're actually using memory. Memory is a skill, not a permanent thing. And then she said, I don't remember as much as I used to. And I said, because you're not using it. So many things can happen with losses. I mean,
Wow.
so many different areas.
This might be off topic, but based on what you just said, with AI being so relevant and so many people using it, so are we losing that part of our brain for thinking?
Well,
I know.
you think about it logically. I mean, before the iPhone or the phones, you actually remembered people's phone numbers. We don't now.
That's absolutely true.
I mean,
Yes.
we don't now. We don't. I said, I don't know what their phone number is. I gotta go look.
Right.
Before
Yes.
you just quote it, or even, or better yet, we use maps, Google Maps, and then we
Right.
get someplace and we don't use a map, a real map, and try to figure it out. So,
Right.
there is the dumbing of our society.
Wow,
So,
that is so interesting because I don't remember phone numbers today. I mean, I have the main numbers that I remember, but back to
mhm,
childhood, I have my friends' phone numbers memorized. It's imprinted onto my brain.
yeah. But see, yeah,
Wow.
there is the dumbing down, and also, I mean, granted, we have so much amazing technology, but there is a major loss, and that is creative thinking, memorizations. There's a lot of things, and then if you lose your phone, you lose everything.
That's
You're
right.
really lost.
Then you're really lost. And here in Canada, people are paying using their phone. They just go up to the scanner. There we go. And some people do it with their watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Done.
So
So,
so there is that's I mean definitely things have transitioned and changed over the years for sure. And I mean, we think about my grandmother, she recently died last year. She was 97. Now, of course, she saw so many changes. when you're an older person, even I'm not that old, but people are dying. People around me are dying, relatives, aunts and
Yes.
uncles and grandparents. I mean, the world is changing, and then again, the matriarch of the family is gone. Now, what do you got?
Right.
So many things occurring. So losses come from many, many angles, many, many places, and the impact on our life is determined by how you process the information, but also how you view yourself, you view them, and how you operate within that system.
Yes, and I want you to talk about that soon. Not yet. I want you to talk about that way of thinking that brings so much life that you don't have to stay stuck in the grief. But before we go there, I really want you to answer like what keeps people stuck in grief? What kind of mindset keeps people stuck in
Well,
it?
well, first of all, they're not stuck. They're recycling.
Mm.
There is the ideology or a belief system out there, and it's common, and that is, and you see this, it's in religions, it's in all the walks of life, and that is the grieving is natural. Of course, we're not going to go into the loss of a loved one or a pet on this call, but we will at another call because it's really a big topic. But there
Right.
is the training and the glorification of grieving. It's an emotional pattern. Our parents did it, and of course, by the way, if you go to most therapies, if they don't know how to change the reason why you're grieving, and that is memory, you'll always have that grief pain inside you. And so knowing how to update how you process changes, unwanted changes, we saw losses, and you'll be, what you do with it is your product. So it's really about how you see it and how you process it. I have a tendency to think forthright. What's the real deal? What are the facts? And then operate with that. So one of the facts is that I talk about is changes always happen. Get used to it and adjust quickly. Those who don't adjust quickly suffer. Uh,
Wow. Great. That is so important. That is so significant. So for the listeners that are listening to that, really write that down and say that again. Robert, that was so good.
what did I say? Where am I?
Is it sorry.
I was channeling. No, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that uh, changes always happen. That's
Yeah.
something you can guarantee. And those who adjust to the changes quickly live longer and are happier. Those who do not suffer.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and
And
that's the poison, really.
that is the poison, but look at all the mindsets around it. I searched many videos about grief and loss. And once again, Robert, I have to say your perspective is life-changing. It is life-giving because you don't have the perspective that, just let time ride it out. Time heals all wounds. You're not telling people,
Yeah.
and so for some people, you're going to get offended because Robert won't keep you stuck in the pain. So if you
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
if you work with Robert on a one-on-one session, he's not, and I'm using the word stuck, he's not going to keep you in the same place. You will shift and you will change and you will see the difference. So
Yeah.
if you do want a session with Robert, his one-on-one sessions, go to skillstochange.com. I think you can go under sessions if you hit the sessions tab, and you'll
Mhm.
see all about Robert. Those sessions are life changing. You have to go and at least gift yourself with a session because I've gifted myself with several sessions, and that's what I do. I like to give myself gifts, and I'm not a girly girl where I'll go and get a manicure. I don't care for that stuff. I like transformation. So gift yourself with a one-on-one session with Robert. It is well worth it, and it will make you look younger too. All right.
Well,
So,
I mean, the truth is about, you know, if you want results, I give you results.
mhm,
And because of, I mean, there's two elements that when I look at things, like you can look at the world from a conscious perception, like the worldly ways of thinking, like, it's spiritual, it's a lesson you got to learn. And the lady said, well, she kept volunteering. She goes, well, this is my life lesson. I said, how many times has it happened? She sat there and counted 17 times. I said, are you a slow learner? 17 times becomes a fetish. I said, once is enough. Maybe the second time, get your lesson, move on. But the
right,
problem is that what people do is they replay, rehearse in their mind. They catastrophize, they regret, they make up stories. And so, for me, just operating from a practical, logical way of processing, find out what it is. I mean, like, for example, you've lost a job or your kids grew up and they left home. Um, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it with postpartum depression. It's
mhm,
because they gave birth to a baby. Well, the baby may have contributed to it, but the real depression is I've lost my life. I'm stuck with this kid. I don't have a job anymore. My body is doing things I'm not used to. I don't have my freedom. I'm stuck. I'm trapped with this man. I'm trapped with this child. I'm trapped at home. These oftentimes could be some processing of depression because it is a major change in a person's life, a child.
right.
Well,
I can see that.
it's no difference than if you lost a job that you loved, or even if you were like the woman retired. She retired from a job she loved and not realizing that her whole world became depressed because she had this job for 50 something years. That was her life. And now her life has changed and she has a big gap in her world. And so what has happened is, and another thing too with this person, for example, some of you who may be listening may be just as, I say, guilty, but what people do in life when they have stuff happen to them, in order to go keep from going crazy or insane, they keep themselves busy. So working keeps yourself busy so you won't think. Well, the bad thing is when you start to get older, you start to get slower. That means you can't run as fast. And then also when you start going slower, those histories that you've been running from starts to bubble out through your body with physical illnesses or worries or fears or all kinds of things could happen because you hasn't dealt with the changes, the unwanted experiences. And those
Mhm,
losses will work throughout your whole life until you figure out how to let it go or it destroys you.
right. So have you, when you're working with people or even in eutaptics and in, what's the course called?
You can change
You
yourself.
can change yourself. Yes. Even in eutaptics and you can change yourself. Do you find that people think, Robert, you're so insensitive? Like that was my dream. Or do you find that people don't like that you pull them out of the pain quickly because they might
Well,
like living in the pain for a little bit?
well,
Or
well, the other interesting thing you say that. So I help people relieve themselves from miserableness, right?
yeah.
But if somebody said, hey, I don't want to get rid of this misery, this pain, this grief and loss, I said, well, how strong is it? They say it's a 5. I said, well, you're kind of underachieving. I mean, if you're a 9, you'd be really good, or a 10. Would you like for me to help you improve your grieving ability?
I like
No,
that.
no one ever
Okay.
takes you up on that.
Right.
And
It's
I
true.
know how it works. I know how it works. I can, if you're grieving at a level 3 and you like it worse, I know how it works. I can show you how
Yeah.
to make your life more miserable.
That's absolutely true. So if that's what they want, I mean, if that's what they're hiring you for,
But
but
but they
I
never
always see
but
people
they never take you up.
exactly.
They never do.
Exactly. And for the people that I've seen online as well, like different teachers, psychologists,
Mhm.
neuroscientists. There's no one looking to improve their depression or their grieving. They're not looking to enhance it. They're looking to
Well, I mean,
feel better.
be honest with you, that's not really true though. And the reason why I say that is let's say you have someone you hate or something you dislike, whether it's meat eaters or presidents
Okay.
or
Mhm.
people. To improve your anger, all you do is hang around people who's going to tell you stories that's worse than what you know.
Ooh.
So it means it amplifies your disgust and anger. Or
Mhm.
you watch videos of people who raise animals and how they treat animals. It creates a negative impact on you and
Yeah.
also on the food around you and the people who eat with you, you know?
Right. So this
So,
is where people find other people and let's protest, let's
oh
anti
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And then you swap stories
Right. And then you
and
get a
you'll put,
tattoo and you write your story.
yeah. It's like the lady. I mean, the crazy thing is, because, I work with drug rehabs for a long time. And one of the major contributing factor to an addict is, first of all, unwanted changes, which are losses. There are shames, there are abuses, there are traumas, and that drives the addiction. And so it's a major component. So the ability to try to escape our pain actually creates more problems because we're trying to escape it. Let me say, for example, if you have positive emotional associations to eating food, and so you're having a stressful moment, your best coping skill is finding yourself in a cupboard and losing yourself inside of some kind of food product. Well, you are feeling better. So here it is, you got the misery here and you got your escape here. The more you do it, the closer the misery gets dumped into the food you escape with. Therefore, you have health issues, you got weight issues, you got diabetes, you got all kinds of stuff. So your escape program won't last long because the more you run to your escape program, the closer your brain starts to mend them together and have a new set of problems.
Wow. So are you saying a lot of the losses that we're not even considering are really like some of them don't seem like they're that big, but we often tie like there's connections to like foods or shopping addiction
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
it's where
yeah.
addictions come.
Illnesses too.
Wow.
Illnesses too. Illnesses
Wow.
as well.
Right. So when you're working with someone, they come to you with a physical pain or they come to you with an addiction, and it leads you all the way back to where it really came from, which is something with losses.
But not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but
Not necessarily.
something.
Say for example, you have like you love like this woman's specific name Sharon, and she had a really strong addiction to Coca-Cola or soda, some soda. And of course, the soda she can't stop drinking it. She's addicted. I mean, she, drinks a lot of it a day. Of course, unfortunately, sodas have, high fructose corn syrup, which is a great fattener for the America. And so she's got all this weight issues. And so she booked a session with me and we started cleaning up. And the imprint, the positive emotional association with soda started when she was like 6 or 7 years old. She went to the store with her grandfather. Her grandfather bought a soda, which also made her feel love and important. So now love and importance were dumped into a soda. Now, some people say, I love chocolate, I love sweets, I love this, and yet none of those will ever love you. And the reason is that there's a misalignment with emotions dumped into the product, thinking there's love. Well, here's the problem. When she's feeling unloved, what's she going to do? She's going to drink soda. And so now she's feeling unloved, not safe, and whatever it is, emotional stressors, she drink more soda. Now, like I said, the soda was a positive original, but what the problem is, it was put in the soda, not into grandpa. So it was linked together. It's like feed the dog, ring the bell, feed the dog, ring the bell, you ring the bell, that they ever get something to eat. You feel love, they give you soda, and all of a sudden you think love is soda, which is a natural wiring together, firing together, fire together, wire together. And so now you're looking for something that was a rescue or a positive association that becomes a curse. And it also is destroying your health. So when we deal with losses, losses do a lot of things to our bodies. Now, again, when I say your body is an innocent bystander. The mind is the controller, the brain is the controller, and the brain speaks through the body to catch conscious awareness. So again, the body doesn't keep the score. The body expresses the score from the scorekeeper, which is the brain.
The brain.
Right. Now, most of us, we see it here. We don't even see the brain a part of the picture. We just blame our body. Our body's responding.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So with losses, I mean, you think about it, it's a major loss. So your whole world changed when all of a sudden you're empty nester. You have no kids at home. I mean, your whole life was evolving around the kids. Or better yet, you've been married for 50 years. He retires and you don't know who this person is that lives with you now because it's a total different relationship. How many times we've seen this where, they retire and they die within a year or two afterwards because they lost purpose in life.
Right.
Well, when you talk about relationships, I remember when I was a kid, I say a kid, I was 17 or 18 years old, getting ready to go into the auditorium to be graduated. I go, what am I going to do with my life? All I've known is school. That was a point. I go, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? And of course, I had to figure out something, right? So again, that could be a major loss for somebody or a major shift and change in a person's world, depending how they process it.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. So going back for full circle to the original question that I was asking, we were talking about the time healing all wounds, other people talking about, like even getting a tattoo and feeling the healing of getting the tattoo and the experience of it,
Right. Right.
and there's, whatever experience they were going through. And we'll
Right.
keep the death of a loved one in, we'll
A
talk about
different
that on the
story. Yeah.
next, yeah, on our next podcast. But what is the key to
Right.
processing the grief
Right.
in a way
Well,
that actually frees a person?
actually sets you free. Well, first of all,
Yes.
time does not heal wounds.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, what time will do is allow it to drift into the backside of your brain where it's not in your face. All right. So then you're out of mind, let's say, was it out of mind, out of something?
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight, out of sight, out of sight, out of mind. So if you're not looking at it, it's in the back part of your head. The
Yeah.
problem is time does not heal all wounds. And how many times we've heard this said, well, after you divorce or you break up, give yourself a year to work through it. Well, no
Mhm.
one knows how to work through it. And so now it's been 10 years and you never stepped into the arena of dating again because it didn't heal wounds, it compounded the wounds. And so the process of of information, your brain takes it in and it categorizes it, organizes it all across the cortices, and there are segments of it, sounds, sights, sensations, whatever, will trigger this up. So the brain just accumulates information. And over a period of time, it'll take all this information and create a product. Now, the product could be depression. The product could be illness. The product could be manic depressive. It could be pissed offness. It could be a lot of things. Now, time can heal. Time won't heal shit, but changing
Right.
the memories and how you represent them inside your mind will set you free. Is
And that's the
adjusting
key.
the memories will set you free. Now, again, I've had people who've had a horrific experiences in their childhood or adulthood, and they've been in therapies. Well, telling a story over and over again about the problem doesn't make it go away. It could give you logical understandings. A woman who's in my office, she's been in 20 years of therapy, been on antidepressants for 20 years. She's sitting on the couch and she's crying and goes, I just want to know why I'm so screwed up. She says, I understand why my dad, what he did, my mom allowed it, what all this stuff. Why am I still screwed up? I said, well, it's simple. You're just good at it. You're
Right.
doing it inside and you don't even know you're doing it.
That's
And I,
right.
and I said,
Yeah.
so I said, what we need to do is figure out exactly what happened, how you internalize those experiences. And by the way, the internalization of the experience, it means how you internalize it, how you visualize it, and how your brain created programs from it to
Mhm.
operate from. So 20 years been on antidepressants. We start changing the abuse memories from her father. She kept dating people who are like her father. She kept having the same basic emotional experiences over and over again. And so we started changing these memories, literally updating the memories where they're not bad, they don't bother you, can't make it upsetting. And then we're literally trying to make it bother you, right? Now,
Mhm.
most people don't even try to look at it, even get close to it. They run really fast. But we
Right.
go,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
go, we change it, we adjust it. Now, after 20 years, she's no longer needing antidepressants. Why? The antidepressants didn't fix it. It kind of
No.
masked it for a while. And if it didn't work, they give you a couple more until you come inebriated. You can't even hardly get off the couch. You have no
Yeah.
feelings because you're on heavy drugs. Well, when you come off the drugs, that's when bad stuff happens. Some people go crazy. And another thing
Yes.
too, all the stuff you were stuffing behind the drugs starts boiling out to the surface.
Right.
And
Yes.
then and then that's when they think you're really going crazy.
Yeah.
So to healthily process losses, and I call being emotionally regulated or be emotionally in control of how you respond and represent things, how to diffuse the emotional reactions to things is the key. Now, I teach emotional intelligence skills, basically show you how to take control and change what you hold within you to where you're going to be smart, act smart, and do smart things.
Hmm. Yeah. So much wisdom in that. So, have you done any research on neuroscience and grief and loss, or have you seen any of the MRI studies on it?
No, I'm not interested.
Okay. Okay, but I want to tell you, I love neuroscience. So when I like looking at the studies, and all of them support what you're saying. It
Okay.
supports what you teach. So I have one of the studies here. It talks about the grief, and they did an MRI study, and they showed that the brain treats emotional loss like physical pain. So what
Mhm.
happens is grief activates, it's the anterior cingulate cortex, it's in the front, and that's the same region that lights up during physical pain.
Mhm.
And then it also talks like there's some other studies about the other parts of the brain lighting up, like the reward centers. And that's all connected to the reward center because they're craving. And this goes back to what you said, where people link, the brain links maybe love in some kind of
Chocolate.
food,
Right.
but yeah, in chocolate or another food. But they actually call this complicated grief, and I know they use different terminology. They call it complicated grief, and but in the reward center of the brain, they what they saw was that people craved that connection. People craved, and there was a link to
Right.
attachment and the
Right.
connection. So
Right.
I can see where people are craving that, and they could link it into something because
Right.
they recall it. But
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it logically, I call this our number one coping skill everyone possesses and use is I feel bad, therefore divert attention and do something else. Again, whenever you're depressed and your brain says cake, you know,
right.
so you're going to run to cake. Now, the reason why you'd run to cake is you have a positive emotional association to it. So now you're getting a reward. You're feeling good and you're escaping the misery that you were just in a few seconds ago. Now, it doesn't get rid of the misery. It's an emotional escapism. It's no difference than using heroin, cocaine, drugs, sex, alcohol, shopping, or cleaning. You're just diverting attention to avoid what's inside. Now, if you go inside and you make peace, which you release the negative associations, you change and update how you represent it, then there's nothing to run from because there's nothing that's going to drive you to use something to escape your feelings because you have nothing but good feelings.
Hmm. Yeah. And so this is where grief isn't always so obvious because some people are grieving silently. They might not even know that this is a grief. They
Mhm.
don't know that this is connected to a grief. So
Mhm.
what are some kinds of losses that people don't even realize they're grieving? If you can go into some of those, see if
Well, like I mean, the first thing when you just think of saying that, It's like a young child, I don't know, any age really, and they are exposed sexually to something. All the other classmates aren't. That point, they've lost a sense of innocence, and now they go to their friend's house and they're thinking their father's doing the same thing to their daughter. So it actually corrupts the world and how they see it. And so that's one of the major side effects. Now, again, when we talk about, if you move, like a child moves from one home where she had all of her friends, it was comfortable. She's lived there her whole life. And then mom and dad got a better job, they get a bigger house, better schools, but this child is now grieving and then she's acting out in a negative way, and she's fighting, she doesn't want to go to school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So side effects of grief shows up physically. Illnesses, I see a lot of people because of especially divorce. uh divorces divorces is not a failure unless you got failures involved, right?
Mhm.
And so another thing is, if you're divorcing someone and they're meaner than hell, they'll try to hurt you, destroy you, lie about you, steal from you. They tell all their friends about how horrible you are. Lies upon lies upon lies. You could be extremely ill. I had a friend of mine,
Yeah.
horrible lawsuits and all this stuff, and her body was falling apart with all the emotional riddle of the loss of the relationship, not only the loss, but the fight to stay alive.
Mhm.
Major, major. And I personally experienced some really bizarre experiences with people. Really, really bizarre.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And I know I grew up in a home with lots of separation. My parents constantly separating and they couldn't
Oh yeah.
decide if they wanted to be together.
Or even I think even we talk about that about religions too. Religions do it to you as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Also
Really?
talk a little bit about that. What do religions do?
Well, I mean, there's a billion different religions, and there's some big ones, and there's some common ones, and then some uncommon ones. But I will
Mhm.
say this: if you're in a religion and their way is the only way, and they have a standard that you must keep, which is impossible to keep, you've already got the rules already played against you. You're guilty because someone died, and you don't even know that person. And then you're carrying this burden. And then, of course, if you don't do right, they will excommunicate you, or they will beat you. They will shame you in front of the group, or they will shame your whole family. So there's a lot of bizarreness with religions. Now, again, even though I talk about religions and spirituality are like on two different ships. They're going two different directions.
Mhm.
One of them is controlled, and they use tactics such as fear tactics, guilt tactics, shaming tactics, and you'll know a religion that's not a healthy one when they incorporate these as a part of their system. And so, if so again, like being shunned from your family, being shunned by the group, major impact. Some major impact. So what we want to do, and again, remember, if you are subservient to others, they have power over you. And so again, they want you to be dumbed down. They don't want you to ask questions. They don't want you to question anything. They don't want you to think. Just do as we say,
Yeah.
not as we do.
Right. Yes, exactly. Just be obedient, be submissive,
Yeah, yeah.
heard it
And
all.
again, there's a lot of pain and loss here. And by the way,
Mhm.
some of these systems, they're guilting you to the hill.
Yes.
Now, if they keep you guilty, they keep you enslaved. They keep you shamed, they keep you enslaved. They keep you ignorant, they keep you enslaved.
Right. But even if you were to separate from the group, say you're excommunicated, got kicked out of the church, now you feel the gap of what you believe and why you got kicked out of the church, or there's a reason you got kicked out of the church. But now let's say you want to live free, free, and you want to live free. So what happens now with that gap? Because these were people, or
Mhm.
even family members, church.
Well,
These were
people,
once
people,
your
yeah,
people,
yeah. Now again, even though you're mentioning church, it could be any club, it could be
right?
sports team, it could be anything.
True.
And because they all have their elements of control. And if you're being bullied, you go, let's say, for example, you start working at a group at this nice job, you loved it, but a couple of the other people who there were jealous of you. And then they start telling stories about you, lying about you, and doing all this stuff. And there's a major hurt and loss with this too. It's all about element and control. And so major hurt, major betrayal and loss and then grieving over it, only if I would have, you know,
Right.
only
Exactly.
if I
So
would have.
what does someone do if they're beating themselves up? They got kicked out of this club, this
Yeah.
group, this family.
Right.
What
Well,
do
you
they do?
you got to learn how to be in control of yourself and also processing the event in a logical, practical way. Here's one of the most important things you have to understand, and I have to do this. I do this on myself, and I process it myself. For example, I was in Ukraine, and we're going into the subway, and we're going down. I mean, like I don't know how many thousands of feet down we went. All right, so we're in the subway and we're like cattle, like all these people in there, and I feel somebody back behind me. So I reach
Mhm.
back, my wallet's there, and then we stopped and we all go forward. He'll punch in my back. And then later on, I'm up there walking around the park. I reach back, my wallet's gone. All right, at that point, my brain started catastrophizing it. Oh my God, I'll never get out of here. I'll be stuck here forever. And my mind, and I go, that's not true. What must
Right.
I can't fix it. I can't undo it. I can't back it up. What must I do practically? Call my son, cancel all the credit cards, contact him, have him send me something else. And so again, you could catastrophize, lay on your belly and cry and be angry and hate subways, hate those people that were there, and you could create a big story. Or
Right.
you could say, so you had to go, it happened. I can't undo it. I can't change it. What must I do now to be alive and safe and healthy?
Right. So in that moment, you were emotional, you regulated yourself right there
I
in that
took
moment.
control. Yeah,
Took control.
I had to logically take control because I could create a really scary story.
Right, exactly. And then you didn't go and like the other part that you did was you didn't create all kinds of stories.
No, no, I didn't. And it's not
Right.
smart.
No, it's not.
But
No.
again, we do a lot of things that's not so smart.
Right.
Because
Yes.
we're not logically, we're getting sucked into the moment. We're
Yeah.
grieving, we're crying, we're beating ourselves up. Only like for example, my dad had died, and I said, only if I was there that day, I could have drove him, it wouldn't happen. What kind of nonsense is that? We find ways to beat ourselves up.
Why do we have a negative bias? Why do we do that?
Well, it's not really negative, to be honest with you. It's a survival
Yeah.
bias. Basically, remember,
Okay.
I mean, if you have a good dog and a bad dog, which one wins the fight? It's the one who gets the most attention. It's the bad dog. It's the one you feed. Now, why is it the bad stuff is more important than the good stuff? Your mother picks you up at school thousands of times the year, 2,000 times a year. And then why is it you'll remember the one time she was late?
Yeah.
Because that being late created emotional intensity.
Mhm.
And then you start making up stories with it and you create a big scary part and it becomes a major red flag in your life. The fear of being abandoned and left. And then you start building a whole life on one memory, but yet you've had hundreds, if not thousands, of times that she's over the years picked you up. But now you're still thinking they're always going to leave me, they won't pick me up, and I'm abandoned. And the reason why people do that is that survival is built in it. You don't want to be abandoned. But the crazy thing is, since the memory's inside you, you are abandoned even when you're not, because
Wow.
it's an imprinted idea inside. That's why.
It's what, right. So we've captured it and that's what we've been imprinted with.
And we build a camp around it. We talk
Right.
about it. We imagine it. We project it.
Yes.
And that is for survival, though. That's the crazy part. That's the survival part of the brain.
Yeah, right. And then with that, do you find that people have layers to get through that? Meaning, even though that's there, like all you're dealing with is like their victim mentality. So you have to work with their victim mentality because they like being a victim. There's a reason that
Well,
they
hold
want
on.
to stay
Well,
that
well,
way.
hold on. I know you say they like to be a victim. I don't really think they like it. They know how. And it's a value that they've learned from where they come from. Being a victim, and by the way, being a victim is an emotional trained system in the world.
Can you say that again? That is, it's so significant again about being a victim.
Well, I don't know which part you want, but being a victim is a emotional trained in our world. I talk about the two models of the world. One model most people do, and we call it the lower model of the world. The lower model of the world says, you make me feel bad. The
Mhm.
weather makes me feel bad. My parents make me feel bad. My history makes me feel bad. My body makes me feel bad. Lower model world says, you, poor me. And the reason why it's like that is because how you came into this world. You were born and you were pretty useless as a child. You couldn't do anything. Fill your diaper, cry, sleep, make a few faces. And
Well,
then
they were
you,
being very cute, very cute.
well, some of them were. I've seen some pretty ugly babies. Nothing personal though.
I think babies are adorable, so I love babies.
But here's a point I want to make. The child looks up to these people to save them, to direct them, to educate them. We learn who we are. We learn our name. We learn our language. We learn our role in life. We always look to others to get our value because that's the lower model of the world. Lower model of the world says, I get my value from outside me. My problems start with my history. You're blaming, pointing your finger at everyone else. Upper model of the world says, and I teach upper model of the world, first of all, I show that there's basically 5 ways that your brain incorporates the world. It brings it in visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, taste and smell. So our brain will capture and create in ourselves your mother and your father inside your head. So your brain will see what it sees, it'll internalize what you see and create a program on how to act and to be. So, every memory inside your head is you, everything inside you is you. Every memory is a program on how to operate in the world. Now, if you've had some pretty crappy things in your life, you have some pretty crappy programs to operate in the world and to look for and to be or attract. So, in order to set yourself free, Upper Mile World says everything inside me is me, and my reaction to you is my reaction. I can change my reaction. So when you know how to change your reaction, you know how to change how you internalize things, you set yourself free. So pain is designed to keep you alive. And also, you build a shrine around it and you build a life because of it. And it's not that you love it, that's all you know because that's the real world.
Yes, so they don't want to be a victim. So when we play victim in our own life, we don't want to be a victim. It's a role that we're really playing.
It's something we learn
Yes.
to act. You're mimicking your mother, your father. You're mimicking other people. And by the way, it's not bad and it's not good. It's just
Right.
what is.
There's no judgment on it.
No,
There's
but it doesn't pay well. I'll tell you that. It doesn't pay well.
right. Yes, to be honest, I think that's where my judgment is on victim mentality. So if I find myself in victim mentality, I would beat myself up with it because that's not fun. What the heck are you doing?
Yeah, but again, beating yourself up because that doesn't fix it. Again,
No.
your victim mentality is a learned program and an internal
Yeah.
processing of things in the past. Now, guys, if you listen to me and I say changing memories and changing all this stuff, if you don't know what you're doing, know how to do it, you can't do it. You know, it's just
Right.
like if you don't know
Right.
how to do something, you can't do it. But if you learn how to do it, you can. And then, by
Right.
the way, majority of the world on the planet, I say 98.99999% of the world have no skill and ability to change a memory, any memory. They don't know how to do that. Even though memories do change within themselves, usually oftentimes either to the worse side or luckily to the better side. But if you know how to directly do it, you do it very fast. Loss can be changed within minutes if you know what you're doing.
That's right. So can you talk about level one? You can master yourself. You can
You
change
can,
yourself. So you can,
well, you need to master yourself by learning how to change
yes,
yourself.
you
Well,
can, you can change yourself. Master training. There we
right.
go.
Well, I mean, it's a course everybody needs to take. And the nice thing about it is it shows you how to know yourself. When I say know yourself, is what you do inside yourself to create what you said you don't want. It's becoming aware of who you are and what you are inside you and being able to shift and change the unpleasantries. Now, here's the problem is some of you guys got some big stuff, a lot of big stuff. As a matter of fact, I've had some people buy the course and they never even open it up because they're so afraid what's inside of themselves. So again, if that's the case and you got some big stuff, I'll help you sort you out. Book a session, I'll change your life. Of course, when I do sessions, like I had a doctor call me today. He called me the other day and he finally returned my call today. He's got Lyme disease and he wants to fix it. He says, I've had it ever since I was 9 years old. I have all kinds of health issues. And of course, I ask questions. Well, how was your life at 9 years old? Do you have siblings? I had an older brother. Did he like you? No. So he's got all this bad stuff happen to him in his life. Now, by the way, this is a normal, typical program. The emotional traumas become physical illnesses. People who've
Yes.
had a lot of losses, lots of hurts, a lot of disappointments, it's emotional, but it becomes physical. So it
That's
could
right.
be physical illnesses or addictions or whatever.
Right. And that's my next question. So what are some of the signs that people will experience if they're not dealing with the grief and
Yeah.
losses?
Addictions for sure, obsessions, compulsions, fears and phobias, low self-esteem. You are always looking to be validated outside yourself. Like I said, depression for sure. Also, you get yourself into unhealthy relationships. Um, obesity, drug addictions, smoking addictions. Any obsession. Perfectionism too. Perfectionism is another side effect. If I'm
Right.
perfect, maybe nothing bad will happen again.
Can you talk about the validation? So people are looking for validation outside of themselves, and that would be
Yeah.
connected to grief or loss. How would that be?
Well, well, again, I just need someone to love me. I just need someone to accept me. I need someone to like me because I feel so miserable. And they're looking outside for their help. Again, it's you know, and here's another thing that's really odd. People do get rewards by being miserable. People do get their feel goods by being sad. They do. They get a little bit of love and attention, maybe. There's a lot of everything you do has a positive intention, even if it's depression, even if it's suicide. Some people actually, I've worked with a lot of people who is ready. They got their noose hanged up, ready to hang themselves. They got the gun ready to blow off their head. They got their drugs ready to swallow down. And of course, when I start working on them, I say, why? Why? What is it? What's inside you? And I said, well, I feel like the world would be better off without me. And then we go back, we start looking at their trauma in their life and what they're processing in their head. When we get said and done, there's no way they could ever do that because they can see bigger than their small world. Because what happens is the world gets really small because they're so busy suffering within the self.
That's right. Wow. So, for our listeners, if you're realizing that you are carrying some grief, some loss from your past, Robert has a grief and loss course that can help you
Oh yeah,
shift those patterns and receive lasting change. And you can learn more about that on skillstochange.com. And we can
yeah,
also link that in the description.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Grief. Matter of fact, I say almost every problem we have has an element of loss and grief in it. Almost everything. It's connected to everything.
yeah,
And the second connection is people are always involved. There's always
right.
a person involved.
Relationships. It always goes back to relationships. I
Well,
wanted
I'd
to
say.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit about aging. We go through all kinds of stages, and I
Hmm.
think you did touch on this a little bit. But what can we do as we evolve, as we change, as we hit 40, 60, 70? What are some positive mindsets? Like, how can we reframe
Yeah.
this instead of 40 and now you're over the hill and everything's going down
Well,
from there?
it all depends on there again. There's a lot of exterior training as we go through life. And that's by listening to what our moms say about their body, how they feel. So we learn to mimic their programs. The thing is about aging is you've always been aging from the moment of birth. You're always aging. The problem is the judgments. Yeah, I don't look as young as I did 10 years ago. Yeah, my hair is gray. So what? It's gray. You know, I'm getting older. I'm getting age spots. I can't run a 15 miles. So what do? Do you make an issue of it? No.
Okay, so but so for the women, we're thinking
Yeah.
I'm using this universally,
Yeah.
but okay, so number one, you said, I think this is important. Number one, you said that we mimic our parents. So what were your parents saying at home? So whatever you heard at home, you have to look at those imprints. Number two, stop making up stories and stop making it a big
Stop.
deal.
Yeah.
You
Stop
have a
judging it.
wrinkle, stop judging
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Get over it. Yeah. You're getting older. I mean, here's the truth is the older you get, you sag, you bag, you wrinkle up. That's just what it happens. And you gray out. So you
Okay,
can't stop that one. If you hate it and you
right.
fight it, you're just fighting a battle that you can't win and you're being miserable. Again,
Okay.
accept who you are. Now, here's the big problem is if you're emotionally happy with yourself, within yourself, it doesn't matter what age you are, you're still happy. If you're unhappy, you always dislike your body, you always judge yourself, you've always been judged, no matter how beautiful you are at your age, you're still judged and condemned. So it really goes back to your value. Yeah, you've lost your youth, but you've also gained your wisdom. Hopefully, huh? As long as you're not repeating bad cycles.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's not always easy for us to hear that.
Well, you just get over it.
Just
You, you
so
get
you
over
say
it.
it. And so there's some people listening to you say, just get over it. And they're thinking,
How?
like,
How? How?
how,
How
how,
you get
or they're
over it?
thinking,
How you get over it? You gotta tap out, change your judgments against you.
yeah.
I mean, at your age, you probably, and I mean, I look around, I look at people my age and go, God, they look old. And of course, I don't look my age. People tell me I don't look my age. And I think the reason is because I do work on myself. I do not invest in unhappy stuff. I do
Yeah.
address what I'm bothered and triggered by. And the reason is because emotional health lives longer. Emotional health lives longer. So be at peace with yourself, within yourself. Watch how you process your morning, how you process your evening, how you process how you see yourself. If and do not build a case against your body, any part of the body.
Right. What if you have many cases?
Work on one at a time.
All right. Okay. So work on one at a
You
time.
can't eat an elephant with one bite.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thought for the day is the past is over. It doesn't exist.
Mm,
Release the judgments about what happened, change the memories of pain that what did happen in your mind. Accept you as you are, where you are, and ask yourself, what could I do to make my life better today? What can I do? I mean,
right.
I honestly think people who are learners, who are willing to learn and expand their mind, willing to look at themselves in the mirror and change how they represent themselves in that mirror, change how they feel about themselves, learn to love themselves by changing unpleasantries within yourself. Make peace with those characters in your life who's caused you harm. Make peace with the food you eat. Make peace with your body. Make peace with your age. Make peace with the wrinkles, the dimples, the scars, the stretch marks, the bagging, the sagging, the gray. Just make peace with yourself and have fun. Find people to have fun with. And
So
then
much
just
wisdom.
just move forward.
Yes. Thank you for all that wisdom. That was beautiful. All right, so thank you for joining us on this episode of the Robert Jean Experience. Remember to register for Robert's free 5-day online course,
Yeah.
and you can find that at Skills to Change. We will also have that linked in the description. And this is just an excellent way to begin applying this work to your own life by signing up for that free 5-day online course. It's
Yeah.
absolutely free. And there it is full of information, tools, content. So if you want more freedom and you want to experience that peace that Robert talks about, this is how you start.
So just learn to love yourself, like yourself within yourself, and do the right thing for you, you know?
That's right. And so we'll see you again in the next podcast episode.
Peace.
Peace.
Was that good?
Yeah, I think we kind of went here and there, but we went with the flow. But I think there's so many details that you talked about that were very significant, like key things that you said that were like eye-opening. Change
Hmm.
always happens. Like, how often do we think of that? It's actually true. Change always happens, but not many people say change always happens.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? And so you touched on the elements, the key elements that needed to be talked about. Number one, stop making up the stories. And that's it's a very human thing.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to make up a story. And I like how you talked about the survival part. There was so many powerful insights that you gave here today.
All right. Good.
Yeah.